I struggle pretty frequently with horrible, traumatic, intrusive thoughts. Like not just the funny ones where like you regret your past or you think about something that you did and how you could have done it better or replaying conversations for the perfect comeback. I'm talking the type of intrusive thoughts where people are getting tortured and murdered and brutalized in just the worst imaginable ways. Things that when you read about horror authors and how their mind comes up with these things, that is often my brain. And I don't struggle, but I work with a lot of clients who also struggle with these intrusive thoughts. And maybe that's you. And so I'm speaking to you. If this is not you, it's probably still helpful, but I'm glad that your life is much easier than mine. As I'm laying in my bed last night trying to fall asleep, I closed my eyes, and right when I closed my eyes, because it's finally time for my brain to wind down and for me to actually like get some rest, everything that I've been stressing about during the day kind of evaporates, and so I'm left with just my emotions. And so that's when these things start coming in, and oftentimes they'll come in dreams as well. But this one happened just as I closed my eyes. I was not in a dream state yet. It was terrifying. It involved children, it involved torture. And so I thought to myself, I was like, well, what am I going to do about this? Because that's the question that my clients ask. That's the question that we all want to ask. And there's 100 different videos on social media about like why this happens and how trauma can cause intrusive thoughts and all of these different things. And it's like, we don't need more answers of why. I tell my interns, I tell the therapists that work for me that all the time. I was like, why is the least helpful question? A better question is what? What are we going to do about this? What does it mean to you? What does it feel like? And it feels terrible. And what are we going to do about it? Well, here's what I did about it. I don't know what you should do about it. I don't think I'm that presumptuous over your life. But what I did was I recognized, because of my training, because of my work with complex trauma and these type of terrible situations, I recognized that what we often do in those intrusive thoughts is it's mirroring an emotion. And it's mirroring an emotion at an intensity that I need to pay attention to. The brain, the subconscious mind doesn't speak in like analytics and structure or direction. It speaks in intensity. And so oftentimes when I'm struggling with feeling a positive emotion, my mind and your mind will show you that emotion to the same intensity, but in the opposite. Because let's be honest, you and I don't know what confidence feels like. You and I don't know what happiness and joy feels like much of the time, but I do know what torment feels like. And there has been enough torment in my life that when my brain recognizes I'm struggling with feeling joy and struggling with feeling confidence, well, it can show me that same level of intensity of good feelings, but in the negative way. And it'll often do that when I fall asleep. And so what I did is, well, I recognized the message of my mind. My mind saying, hey, you're in a bad spot right now. Things are not good. And they're not good to this degree, to this intensity on this side. It's up to you to figure out how to get to the other side. And so here's one way to do it that works for me, and I hope it helps you. We often get trapped inside of one character. And so obviously when I had that intrusive, tormenting, torture thought, I immediately go to the character being tortured. I automatically see myself as the one being tormented. And that's my problem. I'm going to be real. Like that is the issue that I face, is I always see myself as the one being tormented, because deep down, I think there's this subconscious belief that I deserve to be tormented and that only my happiness can come from when I'm being tormented and allow myself to be tormented by others. But that's a lie. It's a lie that's been told to me by my trauma. So what do? Well, I've got to be able to experience life from the other side. And so I've often told people that they need to experience and imagine what it's like to be the aggressive character, to reclaim their violence, to reclaim their primal aggressive urges, drives, and motivation. But I'm going to add something to that, right? And when I say that, I really mean it. I will work with clients where we will create an entire narrative about which they are the aggressor, providing torment and torture to the person that hurt them. Because until the brain can imagine the counterbalance point of being the victim, it'll never be able to find the middle of happiness and peace in our lives. But I'm going to add something to it. In that moment, I said, wow, this is terrible. And I was like, whoa, that's a judgment call. This is not terrible. There's nothing wrong with this. Your mind's trying to say something. I was like, imagine those horror writers. When they get another terrible, intrusive torment thought, they get excited. They write it down. They know it's going to be the next inspiration for their book. So I was like, you can do that, Jesse. You can imagine this being like some kind of fantasy novel or some kind of thriller where things are being awful and terrible and horrific in a, well, very creative way. And so in that moment, by imagining myself as a horror writer and allowing myself permission to continue to explore this torture, I took away the judgment. I said, well, let's explore where this goes. Like, what would be the scenario? Why would someone create this type of situation? What would be their motivation? Why are they in this space? And it allowed me to flesh out the thoughts, and I realized some things about myself. I realized some things about how I put myself in the victim role all the time. And I don't mean the victim role as in, I'm helpless, because I certainly don't feel that way, but victim role as in I deserve to be hurt. And that is something that I often struggle with. What I mean is, by allowing myself the creative capacity to explore this part of myself without judgment, I found that there's a very deep hurt part of my childhood self that needs to be explored and is asking for help. And so in this scenario, I realized, well, the person that would be doing the torture would have been motivated to do that because of their terrible childhood. And they would want to exact revenge upon the people who did terrible things to children in their lives. And they would do it in this very creative and devious, just nasty way. And I think I learned more from that intrusive thought than I have from many other therapy sessions and years of counseling. Your mind is not against you. It's misunderstood. But if we can take away that judgment and listen to the words that it's trying to say, that speaks with images and pictures, oftentimes very horrific, because the topics that we're dealing with are not easy. When you give yourself that permission, you'll find the answers. You just can't be scared. But if you are scared, it's okay. Be courageous, because the answers lie on the other side. That's all I got to say about that. Until next time. Bye.